George
Hey
from
George,
MovieWeb. How are you, Jordan?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk to another guy with a great mustache.
Thank you.
That's just it.
Thank you.
Just popped into my head. Looking great, great work.
Thank you. Yeah, same. It's
I wanna focus on the movie on the movie, of course, but also you've done a lot of work that our audience loves. But before we get into some of the other stuff, I'm curious about the book here translating to screen so well as it does. The perspective is such an important part of that perspective of a child. I think they did an excellent job capturing that, but I'm kind of curious how you felt about it and how you saw that because the writing is so great, but it really does come across, and that seems like one of the core things that makes the story special.
I mean, I agree with you. I think when I wrote the first draft of the novel, it was all told from Nate's point of view, and I didn't really go
Wow.
inside Polly's head. And I will tell you that it didn't work. It didn't work at all. You needed to see this world from Polly's eyes to make it special and to make you understand how crazy everything around you was. Because I found that, again, this is the book Nate, when I told it just from his point of view, he couldn't be vulnerable because Nate isn't naturally vulnerable. So his thoughts were so guarded. Yeah, and I know I'm the author, I should be able to tell him what to do, but it doesn't quite work that
No,
way.
no, I get it. I've dabbled myself. I know.
Yeah. So I ended up rewriting the entire novel from scratch, basically, and kept the plot the exact same, but I just rewrote most of the scenes to be from Polly's point of view.
That's fascinating.
And yeah, so, I think that you can see that in the movie. They do very often center her as sort of the POV character. And that's what makes it, because that is, let's be honest, me, you, 99% of the audience, we're more like Polly than we are like Nate. Um, and and so I think that is the character you need to latch onto. And so I think that there's a great scene fairly early on where very important things are being discussed in the background while Polly just looks at some fish. And that's what a little girl will do. And it helps center you as opposed to like a very normal scene that you'd see in any movie of two people having a conversation where information is being exchanged so the audience is caught up. Like that is a thing that all movies and books do. But the choice to have Polly look at some pretty fish while that's happening, I thought was such a clever way of getting inside Polly's head without using like voiceover or things like that.
Yeah, the alignment of the vision of the film with the way that the book does that is pretty awesome because it's not a given that something like that's going to happen. And you're right that God, yeah, that way exposition happens we're
Hmm.
from the perspective of what you had said, like a like we're a regular person, right? Like a kid or a person who's not familiar with his world, and his world's scary and it creates the danger and the uncertainty, all that drama that comes in.
Yes.
Um,
No, exactly. And it makes it all feel more dangerous.
Yeah, because we don't know, but we're trying to figure it out, just like her.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So when you went through the whole draft with him, and what
Yep.
was your tell me about the feeling of knowing like this maybe is not like was it painful? Was it
Oh, it's very painful. I will tell you. I was working on a TV show at the time, and I had saved a little money by printing out the first draft on the office printer. So I was at my office, and I sat down on the floor of my office to read the book. And so I would like finish a page and then put it down, face down on the floor next to the pile. So there were two piles of pages, and I think I read about 30 pages before I had this realization. And it was just crushing because I knew it was like a lot of work that I would have to do. And I had no question. I was sure that I had made this terrible mistake and that was going to take me months to fix. And I just got up off my office floor and went back to my desk and I ignored the papers on my floor for 2 or 3 weeks. And
Wow.
my coworkers, who included my now partner Megan, because we met on that show, and she would say it was like that there was a crime scene in my office, just as like this murdered body, and so I felt bad about it for a couple of weeks, and then I kind of gathered my strength and picked it back up and went back to work because that's what you have to do.
Nice.
Like, this is not an easy profession, and people who like want it to be want to use ChatGPT to write their books, and then they're never going to do it, not for real, and because it's a hard job. And
Because
so,
that kind of decision, that recognition is exactly what takes something that could be just standard to something
yeah,
that's excellent.
yes,
And that's only something you can do if you recognize it and work through the pain. You mentioned working on a show, and Criminal is on the horizon, and it's extremely exciting to people. And I'm curious how it's felt to work on it, how what the process has been like, and what your thoughts on it are so far.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. This is the only thing I'm going to do this for. I can't really talk about that.
Okay, I understand.
So yeah, but I appreciate it. I appreciate that people are really excited about it. So sorry
Yeah,
about that,
I'm not
but
surprised. I'm not surprised. So why don't we talk instead about why don't we talk about the legacy of the Mentalist really quick before we wrap?
sure.
Because that's another example. It's tonally so different, so wonderful. I don't know if that's the show you were working on when you were writing, but like that show, it really has staying power. The way his magical power is utilized is fascinating and effective and fun to return to. And so I'm curious just about, what you learned on that and how you take it to the other things.
No, that's a great question. I started writing She Writes Shotgun on The Mentalist, but the scene I just described happened. I moved to Bruno Heller's other show after The Mentalist went off the air. I moved over to Gotham, and so
Oh,
the scene
right.
I just described took
Another
place in
great show.
Gotham.
So
But, look, I wrote or co-wrote 14 episodes of The Mentalist. I helped break 130 episodes of The Mentalist. I was working with some of the great TV writers of that style. And while it's not tonally anything like I could do, I tell people all the time, I got paid to go to grad school,
Mm.
um, because I was thrown into the world of a very mechanically complex storytelling style. And that was a place that really believed that you had to go off on your own and break your stories and then come to the room and say, here's my ideas. So I learned so much about storytelling, and that underneath any story, no matter how flowing it feels on the surface, there is a skeleton in there. There are very few stories that are jellyfish. They almost always have a skeleton in there. And learning how to build that skeleton uh, completely for me came out of the time I spent on The Mentalist. I'm glad that it still has staying power. It was a remarkable thing to be a part of something that popular, and I think we're coming back to that era. Simon was nominated for an Emmy
Yeah.
for season one, and that year was probably about the last year anybody on a network TV show was going to get a drama nomination for a cop show. And we've all decided that those people don't get awards the same way they don't want to give comedy awards to people who are actually funny any longer. I mean, Julia Louis-Dreyfus won a bunch. She's funny, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yes. Yes.
we've kind of moved away from that. And I think it would be so great if people would acknowledge that like TV that is trying to be fun is actually really worth celebrating alongside the overly serious, overly serialized stuff that we're kind of getting poured over us these
Oh,
days.
I absolutely agree, and it's excellent work. Excellent work is excellent work, whatever it comes in. But Jordan, I have to wrap. Thank you so much. Come back or talk to me again when Criminals is out there, and as you continue to work. This was fun and all too brief. I appreciate your time.
Awesome. You bet. Take it easy, man.